They say life in the suburbs is calm, even idyllic, but peace only lasts when everyone understands boundaries, and some people never learn that lesson. I was standing in line at my usual coffee shop, just a few blocks from my house, when it began. My phone buzzed once, then again, harder this time. Smart lock breach detected. My eyes glued to the screen just as a second alert appeared. Federal response initiated. My stomach knotted. Within seconds, I pulled up my security feed, and there she was, Karen Whitfield, president of the Willowbrook HOA, standing in my side yard with a smug grin plastered across her face, gripping a pair of industrial bolt cutters in her manicured hands. At her feet lay what was left of my $3,000 Titan X7 smart lock, sliced apart like scrap metal. She muttered about unauthorized renovations and neighborhood standards, completely oblivious to what was about to unfold. Because just then, a black SUV turned onto my street. Then another. And another. In less than 5 seconds, 6 black federal vehicles surrounded my property like I was some kind of national security target. Agents leapt out with weapons drawn, voices booming for her to drop the cutters and raise her hands. Karen's transformation was immediate. Her self-righteous posture collapsed into wide-eyed terror. Her face drained, her lips trembled. She raised her hands in surrender like it was something she'd been preparing for her entire life. That 5-second window was all it took for her fantasy of control to collapse under the weight of federal authority. But if you really want to understand how we got here, you need to rewind a few months, back before Karen Whitfield realized exactly who she was dealing with. My name is Marcus Chen. For 23 years, I worked as a senior cybersecurity analyst with a government contractor. After retiring, I bought what I thought would be the perfect home on Maple Street. 3 bedrooms, a double garage, and most importantly, a detached side unit I planned to convert into my personal lab. Retirement for me isn't about golf or gardening. It's about finally having time to design the systems that help protect the country. Projects involving sensitive equipment, encrypted data, and infrastructure-level security tools. That's where the Titan X7 came in. A military-grade smart lock, biometric access, armed with encryption so advanced it triggered a direct federal alert if tampered with. Fully legal, fully permitted, and carefully installed to stay off the HOA's radar. Because frankly, I didn't think it was worth involving them, and Karen proved me right. 2 days later, I was watering my lawn when she marched over like she was patrolling royal grounds. Clipboard in hand, designer sunglasses perched on her. Head like a crown. "Mr. Chen," she chirped, voice dripping with artificial sweetness that barely hid the poison underneath. "I noticed you've made some changes to your property. That lock on your side unit hasn't been approved by the architectural committee." I kept my response measured. "It was cleared by the city. It's a high-security upgrade. Perfectly legal." Her lips twisted like she'd bitten into something sour. "The HOA has its own standards. You'll need to submit Form 47B for retroactive approval." I gave her a polite smile and a nod. "I'll take a look. Have a nice day, Karen." That was mistake number 1. You don't brush off Karen Whitfield. She doesn't forget. And she definitely doesn't forgive. Within a week, the complaints began. First, it was my window tint. Too dark, she claimed. Then, my trash bins, left out 30 minutes too long. Next, a satellite dish on my roof, apparently a visual nuisance, even though 3 of my neighbors had the exact same setup. Each complaint arrived with a fine, a stack of paperwork, and usually Karen herself standing smugly at my front door. She once actually showed up at my yard with a ruler in hand, crouching down to measure the length of my grass like she was conducting an official inspection. But things didn't stop at petty annoyances. Her obsession escalated the moment she noticed my late-night deliveries. A few times a week, discreet vans would pull up to drop off packages, network hardware, encrypted drives, server racks, standard supplies for my work. But for Karen, Each delivery was proof of some sinister scheme. One evening, she cornered me during a drop-off. "Marcus," she began, voice dripping with fake concern. "The neighbors are uncomfortable. These vans, these packages. What exactly are you storing in that side unit?" "I work in cybersecurity," I replied flatly. "I receive specialized equipment. Everything is legal. It doesn't concern anyone else." But she wasn't satisfied. She tried to peer past me into the unit. "We have a right to know if there's any danger to the community. I demand access." I shut the door. That was mistake. Number 2. From that moment, Karen wasn't just annoyed. She was obsessed. The city started receiving new complaints. Police knocked on my door for bogus wellness checks. At one point, she even hired a private investigator. He lasted 2 days before quitting, saying I was the most boring target he'd ever followed. But the sudden silence that followed? That was what worried me most. Karen hadn't quit. She was planning. And then came the day everything changed. I had a scheduled video consultation with a few former colleagues, so I stepped out for a few hours, expecting nothing unusual. But Karen saw her opening. The footage from my security camera was crystal clear. Karen striding up my driveway, bolt cutters in hand, glancing over her shoulder like she was sneaking into a military compound. Her face was tense, jaw clenched, with determination. Then came the sharp snap of metal breaking through the lock. That single sound triggered the Titan X7's federal alert. This wasn't just a reinforced padlock, it was part of a national infrastructure defense pilot program. And a breach didn't call local officers. It summoned a federal task force stationed just 15 minutes away. Karen hadn't even touched the doorknob before the first black SUV screeched onto the street. Then came 5 more, stopping bumper to bumper. Tactical agents poured out with flawless precision. "Federal agents, drop the tool, hands where we can see them." She froze. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "This is a misunderstanding. I'm the HOA president. I have full authority." But before she could finish, an agent cuffed her. "You breached a federally protected access point. You're under investigation." 20 minutes later, I returned to a scene straight out of an action movie. Federal agents lined my street, neighbors peering from behind curtains, and Karen sat in the back of a black SUV, shaking, pale and stunned. Agent Rivera approached me with calm professionalism. "Your system functioned exactly as designed. No internal data was compromised. We'll need your statement." I nodded toward the SUV. "What happens to her?" "She'll be interrogated. If your equipment wasn't accessed, federal charges may not apply. But under state law, she's looking at destruction of property, unlawful entry, and criminal trespass." Karen's downfall was swift. 2 days later, the HOA held an emergency meeting. Todd, the nervous vice president, announced that, due to legal complications, Karen Whitfield has voluntarily stepped down. The room buzzed with whispers, but no one asked for details. Everyone already knew. Thanks to my request for leniency, federal prosecutors stepped aside. But the state didn't. Karen was sentenced to 2 years probation, 40 hours of community service, restitution for the destroyed lock, and, most importantly, a restraining order. She was forbidden from coming within 100 feet of my property or contacting me in any way. Naturally, I upgraded my security system again. The new lock used facial recognition, with one custom feature. If Karen ever tried to return, friendly automated voice would announce, "Unauthorized approach detected. Federal authorities have been notified. Please vacate the premises." Petty? Maybe. But after months of harassment, it felt more than fair. And something remarkable happened. Our neighborhood changed. Susan, the new HOA president, actually listened to residents. Complaints dropped. People started smiling again. It felt like the whole street had been under siege, and now we could finally breathe. As for Karen, she ended up selling her house to cover legal fees. The last anyone saw of her, she was loading boxes into a U-Haul. No smug grin this time, just silence. Meanwhile, I still work in my side unit. I still receive late-night deliveries. I still protect what matters. And every time I pass that lock, I think about the moment Karen learned the hard way that some systems are not to be trifled with. It only took 5 seconds. 5 seconds to turn the self-proclaimed queen of the cul-de-sac into the biggest cautionary tale in Willowbrook. Because in this neighborhood, the real danger isn't a high-tech lock. It's believing you're above the rules. If you enjoyed watching how an entitled HOA president discovered the hard way that boundaries exist for a reason, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life neighborhood showdowns and unexpected justice. And if you think Karen got exactly what she deserved, give this video a like. It helps us keep exposing the petty power plays hiding in plain sight.